Today is the first day of the Feast of Tabernacles, which is a 7-day period of joyful feasting. It is mentioned in Leviticus chapter 23. It is the great fall harvest, which in ancient Israel was the ingathering of the fruits and the orchards. And they would set up their booths made out of branches, and they were indeed celebrating the last harvest of the Holy Land. And it was a very joyful and happy and wonderful time. It pictures for us the age to come, the age where God has said there will be a restitution of all things, and there will be peace, and there'll be joy, and there'll be no more war, and even the nature of animals will be changed. It is a wonderful, wonderful time. Isaiah chapter 11, as most Bible scholars know, is a prophecy of the coming of the Messiah to bring in this age to come. But there's many other things in this prophecy of Isaiah 11, that if you believe one part of it, you must then also believe the other part of it. It goes together. It is all one prophecy. Isaiah 11, chapter 11, verse 1. And there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. This is speaking of the Messiah. And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and of understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord, and shall make him a quick understanding in the fear of the Lord. And he shall not judge according to the sight of his eyes, neither reprove after the hearing of his ears, but with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and reprove with equity for the meek of the earth, with equality. No more favorites, no more under-the-counter bargaining, no more behind locked doors bargaining, but indeed will reprove with equality the meek of the earth. And he shall smite the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips shall he slay the wicked. He's not going to be somebody to be fooled around with. Verse 5, and righteousness shall be the girdle of his loins. The Bible definition of righteousness, my friends, is Psalm 119 and verse 172. Indeed, then his loins will be girt about with righteousness, and faithfulness shall be the girdle of his reins. The wolf, here is the time that has never happened. It is going to happen. It will happen in the new age. The wolf also shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. The crow and the bear shall feed, their young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox, and the sucking child shall play on the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put his hand on the cockatrice's den. There'll be no more poisonous snakes. Everybody will be able to play with each other, and all of the animals and the children will be able to play together. Verse 9, they shall not hurt nor destroy in my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. What a day that will be, when this earth will be so full of the knowledge of truth, the knowledge of God, the knowledge of his word. It will be like the sea covers the seabeds. It will be so deep. Verse 10. And in that day there shall be a root of Jesse, which shall stand for an ensign to the people. To it shall the Gentiles seek, and his rest shall be glorious. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord shall set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, Germany, from Egypt, and from Patroth, Upper Egypt, and from Cush, or Ethiopia, and from Elam, Yugoslavia area, and from Shinar, that's Iraq area, and from Hamath, Syria area, and from the islands of the sea. You see, everywhere in Bible prophecy, if you read the context, anything to do with the Messiah returning, the people of Israel and Judah are in a state of captivity. They have been taken by their enemies into captivity for the punishment of their sins. The Lord's patience only will hold for so long. And the people of Israel and Judah today are multiplying in sins over and over, each day, each week, each month, each year. We are becoming more and more sinful, more and more wicked, and filled with iniquity. And we call good bad, and we call righteousness sin, and we call sin righteousness. There will come a time when our peoples, Israel and Judah, will go into captivity from our enemy lovers, and we indeed will be scattered around much of the earth. The coming of the Messiah, the people of Israel and Judah will be brought out of that captivity and brought back to the Holy Land. It goes on to say here in verse 12, and he shall set up an ensign for the nations, and shall gather and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel, and gather together the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. This has never happened, my friends. The coming back of the Jews in the beginning of the 20th century, and especially after 1948, the coming back of the Jews into the Holy Land is not the fulfilling of this prophecy. The context of this prophecy is to do with the Messiah returning. And when he returns, he will bring again the captivity of Israel and Judah. He will bring them out of that captivity and bring them indeed to the Holy Land. Verse 13, the envy of Ephraim shall depart, and the adversary of Judah shall be cut off. Ephraim, the British Commonwealth, shall not envy Judah, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim, but they shall fly upon the shoulders of the Philistines. That's the Palestinians today. Towards the west, they shall spoil them of the east together. They shall lay their hands upon Edom, that is Turkey, and Moab, the Jordan area, and the children of Ammon, that's Jordan area also, shall obey them in coming back from the lands that they're scattered in. This is what's going to happen in verse 13 and 14. Verse 15, and the Lord shall utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea, and with his mighty wind shall he shake his hand over the river, and shall smite it in the seven streams, the delta of the Egyptian river, and make men go over dry shod. Now notice verse 16. There is coming at the end of this age, my friends, with the coming of the Messiah, there is coming another exodus, and it will be so great, it will, first exodus will seem like nothing compared to this second exodus. Verse 16, There shall be a highway from the remnant for the remnant of his people, which shall be left from Assyria, from Germany and Europe, like as it was to Israel in the day that he came up out of the land of Egypt. A great and mighty exodus of the peoples of Israel will take place when the Messiah returns. Chapter 12 of Isaiah is continuing with this prophecy. And in that day shall they say, O Lord, I will praise you. Though you were angry with me, your anger is turned away and you've comforted me. That's what Israel and Judah are going to say at that time, in that day. Behold, God is my salvation. I will trust and not be afraid. For the Lord Jehovah is my strength and my song. He also is become my salvation. Therefore, with joy shall you draw water out of the wells of salvation. Yes, Israel and Judah will have God's Spirit poured out upon them in salvation. Verse 4, and in that day shall you praise the Lord and call upon his name. Declare his doings among the people. Make mention of his name. Make him exalted in his name. Sing unto the Lord, for he has done excellent things. This is known in all the earth. Cry out and shout, you inhabitants of Zion, for great, great is the Holy One of Israel in the midst of you. This is a prophecy, my friends, for the very end time when the Messiah will return. And indeed, there'll be a changing of the nature of animals. Indeed, there will be a delivering of Israel and Judah from their enemies. They will be brought back like a massive second exodus. And then they will praise and they will sing to their Lord and to their God, because he then will be in the midst of them.